Welcome in. We are back. We are here covering weeks 4 through 6 of the Ocarina of Time Standard Tournament Season 8. This is the weekly recap, wrap-up, updates, whatever you may want to call it. And we are here today to celebrate quite a few matches. I know it's been a little bit. Nobody to blame but myself, but let's get right into it. Let's go and look at our first matches, and we're going to jump right in. We're going to jump right into Alexis versus Ryuken. Now, this is a French matchup between a previous tournament champion and our number one seed. Our number one seed being Alexis, and previous tournament champion, Season 6, that is Ryuken. We've got... this one was just fun to watch, as we had the unhinted light arrows blocking our runners from go mode late into the game. With our medallion dungeon items being hinted, like hammer, we only knew that those lights could not be hinted behind those Ganon's boss key specifically hinted items, because the light arrows have to come first. So, our runners scoured the game until Alexis ended up doing Jabul and found the light arrows early in the dungeon. I believe it was map chest that the light arrows were found, thus propelling Alexis to the win. So Alexis did move on and will be moving on against Bulk in our losers bracket round 3. Next up we have... oh man, what an insane matchup. Marco versus Rock Chalk. Now, this is winners brackets quarterfinals. 1 of 4. And we're going to go through all 4 of them today, I promise. Marco versus Rock Chalk, a matchup worthy of its placements. We've seen what these two runners can do, and we have a Season 2 champion in Marco facing off the challenger Rock Chalk, where both players have had such a crazy run in the tournament so far. Marco has taken down 2 tournament champions to get to this stage, and Rock Chalk has had incredible matches against Floosh and Sponge in their likeness. Our number 3 and 19 seeds respectively, as our number 30 seed in Rock Chalk has cleared a path for themselves. In a match where we had noteworthy hints of our key sword being Song of Time locked in Toilet Check in GTG, and an ominous mirror shield hiding out in Hyrule Castle Ferry, Marco makes quick work of the seed and efficiently clears it just over the 2-hour mark. Marco will be moving on into the winner bracket semifinals and is our first player to reach that status. Next up, we have another winners bracket quarterfinals, and that's going to be between Xavi and Cola. If you don't know, this is another hype winners bracket quarterfinal where we have 2 German Goliaths facing off in battle to reach the winners bracket semis. Our Season 7 champion from last year, that being Xavi, has taken on so far Seisei from round 1 and our number 1 seed Alexis from round 2 to reach this point. If you don't know this information, why aren't you watching? Anyways, Cola has also played against Dobu Decker and Keatums, 2 very analytical matches thus far. And honestly, with a hinted strength on King Zora, and that pretty much opened up the possibility of Strength 3 coming into play here, but in reality, that hinted strength was for Hammer inside of GTG. I believe it was Key Logic. It's been a while since I've seen the match, but either way, that pushed Cola, who got all 3 strengths, into Ganon's castle, into hunt for the boomerang, but that ended up giving Xavi the upper hand and the time to do Stone Spirit earlier than Cola did, with boomerang being mirror locked in Spirit. Xavi ended up taking the win in just under 5 minutes apart from Cola, heading on into the winners bracket semifinals against the winner between Cola and Mr. Mario. We'll cover that match here soon. That's coming up, I promise. But Xavi will be joining Marco in one of the 4 players that will be playing in our semis, but they will not be playing each other. They are on opposite sides of the brackets. Next up. Oh, I should probably update these. Yeah. There we go. Next up, we have Just Sam versus Tanjo. This is a loser's bracket round 2, and honestly an intense matchup, where the loser unfortunately is out of the tournament. We've got a highly anticipated match between our number 13 seed Tanjo versus our number 10 seed Just Sam. In a speedy match, finishing just over the 2-hour mark. I believe it was 2 hours and 1 minute. The game came down to our runners looking for Din's Fire. Hyrule Castle Fairy held the loop yet again, and Just Sam was quick on the pickup, pushing himself on the lower brackets round 3, facing off against Runis. Next up, we have a match between Fabio and Juke. This is lower bracket round 2, and honestly such an incredible matchup between, I believe this is a keyboard and a controller player. We have Fabio, one of our keyboard warriors, playing against a well-experienced Juke in this match. With the seedings of 18 and 21, our seasoned vets play off in a match where small routings decisions made all the difference. Where doing a stone to Dongo's Cavern before reversing to GTG pushed our winner, Fabio, in front, having gotten the fire arrows out of the Dongo's Cavern before reversing to Gerudo's training grounds to do the Wasteland torches. This gave Fabio the Din's Fire, and thus pushed Fabio into the lower brackets round 3. Next up, we've got a winner's bracket quarterfinal. This is our third for today. This is Ikola versus Mr. Mario. With our third quarterfinals in the winners brackets, we have some of the highest esteemed names within the community duking it out for the semifinal spot, and the winner of this will play against Zavi, as we know. A close match in execution came down to a match of who chose the right place to go first. Ikola picked Forest Temple, and Mr. Mario picking Ice Cavern and Ganon's Castle. Ikola ended up coming out on top with the long shot just hiding in the well of Forest Temple. This determines who is in our first semifinals match between Ikola and Zavi coming up soon. Next up, we have the long-awaited rematch versus Hyper and Flea. As we know, this match was supposed to happen. It did happen, but it had to get redone due to settings, specifically emulator settings. This match was redone, and this was played maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. This was one of those where both players followed each other for quite some time. Flea picked up a hookshot and strength inside of Shadow, whereas Hyper dipped out of Shadow after getting that hookshot, which was a little scary considering that strength was needed. Strength 2 was needed. So a second strength popping up for Hyper in Gerudo Training Ground ended up saving him, and eventually won him the race here, propelling Hyper to the winners brackets quarterfinals. And yes, that will be our fourth quarterfinals, and that will be Hyper versus, I already forget. We'll get to it. It's fine. It's coming up here shortly, I promise. Next up, we've got, oh my goodness, these names are insane. Seize versus What the Hell's Happened. Sorry about that, we're back. Seize versus What the Hell's Happened. This one's just absolutely insane. If you please go watch these matches. Most of these matches are here up on ZSR, and you could watch these matches over on Twitch at twitch.tv/Zelda Speedruns, or the ones that are restreamed over here on YouTube. Well, they're up on YouTube. Either way, you can see them both on YouTube and on Twitch at the moment. But this match right here, this is an insane matchup between two star-studded runners. This started and ended with a bang. These two runners gave everything they had, and the winner finished while the other was still fighting Ganon. That just tells you how close it was. Their history, even through previous tournaments, has shown how close these races between them can get. And Seize ended up taking the win here over our previous tournament Season 4 champion to propel himself into lower bracket round 3. Next up, speaking of lower bracket round 3, we've got Drunas versus Just Sam. Now this is a match I really wanted to see myself as well. A close match between our two runners who finished only minutes apart. This matchup was one you could grab a bucket of popcorn and enjoy just sitting on the edge of your seat. It was an all dungeon seed for shadow access, which was relatively nice to our runners, as much as it can be. But we get a good look at our runner's execution, and ultimately the match was decided between a runner who did Ice Cavern and a runner who did not. Drunas takes the win here over Just Sam and will be moving forward to face Rock Chalk in lower bracket round 4. Next up, we have Aosuna versus Flea. Lower bracket round 2. This matchup between our 20th and 23rd seeds respectively came down to who was more thorough faster. I mean, just by reading and watching exactly how this seed went, I wouldn't want to play this seed if I were anybody. No, this is not a seed that you want to play. Had very late big items such as Bomb Bag and pretty much bottlenecked the seed, and eventually Aosuna ended up coming out on top, and it will eventually play Fabio in lower bracket round 3. Alright, so that is that for that set of runners. Let's go and move on to the next. We have Seize versus J-Bone. Seize versus J-Bone. This match unfortunately means someone's tournament lifeline must come to an end. In an elimination match in the lower bracket round 3, these two runners, the Kokiri sword was ultimately just the deciding factor between who stays in the tournament and who goes home. A stone Dodongo's Cavern had our K-Sword, which locked the second hookshot in Deku, and this unfortunately means an end to J-Bone's tournament lifeline, but likewise extends Seize's tournament and pushes him forward into the lower bracket round 4, facing off against Mr. Mario. I just had to make sure I wasn't spoiling anything. Yeah, Mr. Mario being their opponent there, and honestly, that's such a match. I think we actually talk about that match. That match did happen. Yes, so we will be going over that match, Seize and Mr. Mario, here soon. I promise. Alright. Let me get caught back up. And next up, oh my goodness, yeah, this is another huge French matchup between our SGL, our Speed Gaming Live online champion, and our number 1 seed this year. That is all of us excited to see who comes out on top. Now, whenever I say number 1 seed for Alexis, you're also going to remember Alexis is season 6 Challenge Cup champion. Alexis is season 7 runner-up and is also number 1 seed for this tournament. If that's not a come up, I don't know what is. Honestly, I've been rooting for this guy, and I mean, it's just insane the amount of plays that, the amount of games this guy comes out on top. And Volk versus Alexis, that Volk is in the same category. These two are just huge players, and honestly, they scare me out of every match I see them in. So, anyways, what more can you expect than a very quick seed executed near perfectly by our winner here tonight? A jet seed where just about everything seemed to fall in the lap of our winner today, that being Volk, who takes down our number 1 seed and ultimately moves on to face off in lower bracket round 4. Yes, that does mean the end to our number 1 seed in the tournament, but don't worry, Alexis is a very consistent runner, and I'm sure we will see them again soon. Next up, here's another match that we had lined up a little bit earlier. In lower bracket round 3, we have Fabio versus Aosuna. These two are two names that we know and love that are fighting against elimination. I mean, these two, you see them in just about everything, and honestly, every time I know I watch these guys, I'm gonna learn something. With interesting locations leading our runners across Hyrule Field, through Ice Cavern and Deku, and even a hinted storms for light arrows. There was a Death Mountain crater hinted as well. Fabio ends up coming out on top to remain within the tournament. Unfortunately, an end for Aosuna, as Fabio will be moving forward to lower bracket round 4 against Cola. Next up, oh, this one, honestly, okay, I know I'm saying this at just about every single matchup that's coming on, but come on, let's have some fun here. Like these matchups are just absolutely insane, and as I'm like going through every single match and reading through, I'm just like, oh my god, when did these matches happen? That I was away for a little bit. Don't don't get at me like that. I was away for a little bit and I had to take care of some things IRL, but as soon as I came back and realized how much I missed, I was upset. There's so many good matches that I had to catch up on, and I'm so glad I did. And I know you won't be mad either. Just take some time and watch these matches through. I promise it's worth it. Rock Chalk versus Drunus. Lower bracket round 4. We're getting into the upper half of the lower brackets. These people have been fighting tooth and nail to stay within the tournament, and some of these people have had insane runs. And that just doesn't end here today. What an exciting matchup between two esteemed players. Drew, our 15th seed, and Rock Chalk, our number 30 seed, take to arms to see who has what it takes to move forward into the upper half of our lower brackets. Honestly, such a naughty seed, hiding an ambiguous strength 3 on 20 skulls, which eventually led to a long shot in Ganon's, or outside Ganon's Castle Ferry, in a match played near perfectly by our winner, Rock Chalk. When I was watching this one, I just could not believe this guy just, oh man, this seed was made for him, and sometimes that's just how it happens. This rewards him with such a victory in this matchup, and honestly, such an incredible match to watch, as you have no idea where that progression can be. GG's and good luck in the lower bracket round 5 versus their future opponent. Next up, we have a match that I have a little bit more knowledge about, I promise. Hyper versus Aeronaut. This is our final quarterfinals. Oh my goodness, there's so many big matches. Hyper versus Aeronaut. Wrapping up our final quarterfinals comes a matchup unique in its likeness. Hyper, our number 7 seed, facing off against Aeronaut, our 31st seed, hash things out in the race room for the final semi-final spot. I mean, realistically, Aeronaut's run has been such an underdog story, and honestly very inspiring for anybody who's looking and watching along. This match determines a solidified top 8 performance for one of these players, as the match was relatively easy driven for the first hour or so. These runners did nearly the same thing, just in different orders across the board, until Aeronaut found the Kokiri sword and went Deku. This unfortunately led him astray, as both Deku and Ganon's could not have the item they were looking for, the long shot, due to path priority. Hyper, reading this logic, was able to avoid doing both these locations and stumbled onto the long shot. And yes, I say stumbled. He did get kind of lucky. Stumbled onto the long shot in Kokiri Forest Storm's Grotto to come out on top as our finals winner bracket semi-finalist to face off against Marco. That match has yet to happen to this day, but it will happen in 2 days, so stay tuned. Next up, we have Mr. Mario versus Seize. Now, these are, every single one of these can be finals matches, really. Once you get to this point of the tournament, you just realize, oh, every single one of these guys can just take the tournament. Mr. Mario versus Seize. If you didn't catch this matchup live, you better go back and watch this right now. I'll wait. Seriously, I'll wait. Go watch it right now. It's on YouTube. Two among the best executors in the community come head to head in a jet seed, where both players hit go mode just about 75 minutes into the race. Around the same time, within a minute of each other, they both hit go mode. It's insane. This seed came down to whose routing saved them the most time and cut out as many useless checks as possible. And that being said, Mr. Mario came out on top to find him in lower bracket round 5, still awaiting his next opponent. Our last matchup we're going to be talking about today is our first semis finals match. Ikola versus Zavi. These two players have had such a run. Ikola started off against Fur in round 1, Tanjo in round 2, Mr. Mario in quarterfinals, and now finally Zavi in the semifinals. Has not had an easy run. Nobody's had an easy run here in this tournament. Zavi started off with Seize in round 1, Alexis in round 2, Cola in the quarterfinals, and now Ikola. The Colas are out to get him. These two clash it out to find out who will guarantee top 4 within the tournament. This seed was brutal. This seed was absolutely brutal. And it came down to who got their hook shot first. And not even just the hook shot, there's 2 of them. There's a hook shot and a long shot in the same dungeon between 2 different ages. Yes, it's in the Spirit Temple. There's a hook shot in Child Spirit on the second check in Child Spirit, so it's hard Child Spirit locked. There's a hook shot on one of the hands inside the dungeon, on the statue hand, on the adult side. This seed came down to who got those hook shots first, and it came down to Ikola getting those hook shots first and coming out on top, and will be our first winners bracket finalist. Now, this isn't the finals for the tournament. This is not grand finals. Ikola still has 1 match to go to make it to grand finals, but will be one of 2 players in those contentions for the grand finals match. Coming up, oh my goodness, this tournament's going so quickly. That concludes our top 32 brackets weekly recap, wrap up, breakdown, update, whatever you may want to call it. Gosh, man, this week's been absolutely insane. And I say this week, but it's been weeks 4 through 6. And I know I've been slacking a little bit, but realistically, have a little fun, watch some matches. You guys are in for a treat. We're going to do a Challenge Cup update. This has gone only 22 minutes so far. I think we could do a Challenge Cup update as well. Challenge Cup groups are officially over. Okay? If you are curious about the Challenge Cup brackets and what they look like, you could go to the Silver Gauntlets Discord server and check them out for yourselves. I'm going to spoil the first set of matches. The very first match, Cristofo versus Zephyr, in what I would consider an upset. Cristofo wins with 3 hours and 10 minutes versus Zephyr. Insane match. I don't exactly know what happened here, but it happened. Next up, we have Weighty Words beating out Mashi in winners bracket, or just brackets round 1. There is no winner loser bracket. This is a best of 1 elimination brackets match. Okay, so there's 2 sides of the brackets. They both come together and you get your finals. Next up, we have Wooden Barrel beating out Nice. Now, these are 2 top, these players are not anything to scoff at. And honestly, anybody in these 32 bracket matchups in Challenge Cup, nothing to scoff at. You may think, oh, this is just Challenge Cup. This is more. These players are really good, and they very much deserve to be exactly where they are. They are very good at what they do. Wooden Barrel defeats Nice, and I wouldn't even say that's an upset. That's just a clash right there. Next up, another clash is we have Pyra defeating Netherian in the brackets round 1. That's huge. That's a huge matchup. Next up is One Shot defeating Interloper in brackets round 1. This match, I didn't catch this match, but that's another one that I would love to see. Next up, we have Retro, or Retropolis, or Retropolis Zone, RZ, whatever you may call him, defeating Philip T2, or Happy Hiker Philip T2, in brackets round 1. Another huge match. I mean, I'm gonna say this about all of them, but all these matches are huge. Just take me for my word on that. I'm gonna stop saying it, I promise. Next up is Me Think So, defeating Levi Belvedere. Yo-Yo Karina defeats Sombre. Alpha Alpha defeats Nastriel. Tensai defeats Kaipi 3, or Kaipi, or Kaipi. I don't know how to pronounce that. Please correct me. Next up, the one and only Chuckles defeats Narvel Base, or Nigel Base. It's an inside joke, I promise. I'm not going to explain it. Next up, Mr. Martin takes down Bale Nog. There was some FPA shenanigans, but Mr. Martin still comes out on top. Next, we have No Ponds taking down Bro Tinder Dose. Bro is one of those huge runners, so I would consider this an upset. Then we have more recently Ink, or Inca Cola as you may know them, taking down Rosca Tyrant. Then we have Zoro Disco taking down Mafrucci. There was some FPA shenanigans and it was close, but not close enough. Zoro still comes out on top. Master Alex taking down Alpha. Two names that I did not expect to see playing against each other. Then we have our first round 2 brackets matchup. Chuckles taking down Weighty Words with less than 2 minutes apart. They were 1 minute and 35 seconds apart. That's really close. Then brackets round 2, we have Pyra taking down Me Think So. Some of these matches will be up on the Silver Gauntlet's Twitch. They also upload them over onto YouTube. They do take a little bit to be uploaded, but please bear with them. They take some time. I really recommend you go and watching these. So what's next? Well, we cover Challenge Cup. We cover Top 32. I mean, we've got to go over next week's forecast. I'm looking at the brackets. Here are matches that have not happened yet, but they will. Trust me. Winners Brackets Finals. Not the Grand Finals, but Winners Brackets Finals. Ecola is still waiting on their opponent. Their opponent will come from the match of Hyper and Marco. The number 7 seed in Hyper will be playing Marco, the number 6 seed. And actually, I think I know when this happens. This is scheduled. This is happening very soon. Hyper versus Marco will be happening in 36 hours from right now for me, and probably 24 hours from you. Will be happening at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Friday. Be there or be square. It's on Valentine's Day. If love ain't sweet, I don't know what is. We have a semifinals, and I expect to see you there. Then we have lower bracket round 4. Cola versus Fabio. These are co-op partners. Favola, Team Favola, facing off in lower bracket round 4. Saturday, February 15th, 8 a.m. Be there. Or be square, because you're not around. Next up, Aeronaut versus Volk. Lower bracket round 4. Saturday, same day, 3 p.m. It's only 7 hours apart. You might as well just hang out all day. We've got matches for you. Those are the scheduled matches currently. Okay? Those are the only 3 matches that can actually be scheduled right now. Mr. Mario is waiting in lower bracket round 5 and will be playing the winner of Cola and Fabio. Rockshock is waiting in lower bracket round 5 and is waiting for the winner of Aeronaut and Volk. Zavi is waiting in lower bracket round 6 and will be playing the winner of Rockshock versus the winner of Aeronaut and Volk. So it could be Rockshock, Aeronaut, or Volk will be playing Zavi in lower bracket round 6. that is going to conclude our recap today. I think we made fantastic time. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I promise I will have more updates, but I can't guarantee that the next update isn't going to be until after the finals, because realistically there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 matches left. Maybe 11, maybe 12. We can see the light at the end of the tunnel. This tournament is almost over, and we are just this much closer to crowning our Season 8 season champion. Standard champion. One of those. My name is Okishi, and I will catch you guys next week in the weekly recap. See ya!